It was a quiet evening in a small town where the streets were almost empty, and the gentle sound of rain tapping against the rooftops filled the air. The town had a peaceful rhythm, and most people had settled into their homes enjoying the warmth and comfort of their rooms. Among them was a man in his mid-30s living alone in a modest house on the edge of town. He was known to be kind, but had a life that was mostly routine. Days were predictable and nights were calm. There was a comfort in this simplicity, yet a subtle emptiness lingered in his life, a feeling that something was missing even if he couldn't quite put his finger on it. That evening, as he sat in his living room sipping a cup of tea, he noticed a shadow through the rain-streaked window. At first he thought it was just a passerby seeking shelter under the awning, but as he looked closer, he saw someone struggling against the wind and rain, trying to make their way down the empty street. The figure seemed to hesitate near his gate, drenched and shivering. Without thinking too much, he stood up and walked to the door, unlocking it. He hesitated for a moment, aware that strangers could bring trouble, but something about the figure outside tugged at him. Compassion outweighed caution. When he opened the door, the sight before him was striking. A man soaked from head to toe looked at him with a mix of relief and exhaustion. His clothes clung to his body, and his hair was plastered to his forehead. Water dripped from his jacket and pooled on the doorstep. He was clearly exhausted, and something in his eyes conveyed that he had been through a lot to reach here. Without a word, the man in the house stepped aside and invited him in, offering a towel and a warm drink. The stranger's hands trembled slightly as he accepted the towel, and the steam rising from the mug seemed to bring some life back into his weary expression. The two men sat in the living room, the stranger wrapped in a dry blanket and the warmth slowly spreading through his cold body. He was quiet at first, simply taking in the comfort of a place that was safe and dry. The man of the house offered simple food, a sandwich and some soup, nothing elaborate, but it was enough to show care and attention. The stranger ate slowly, savoring each bite as if he hadn't had a proper meal in days. There was a sense of gratitude in the way he looked around, taking in the small, cozy room, the shelves lined with books, the soft light from the lamp casting a warm glow. As the rain continued outside, conversation began to flow. The stranger's voice was soft, tinged with weariness but also with a quiet strength. He spoke in fragments at first, hesitant as though he wasn't sure how much to reveal. He had traveled far, he explained, leaving behind a place and people he could not stay with. Life had been difficult, full of challenges that tested his patience and resilience, but he had kept moving, seeking something he could not yet name. His eyes carried the weight of countless experiences, and the man listening could feel the depth of his journey. It was a story of struggle but also of hope, and it sparked a sense of curiosity in the man who had welcomed him. The stranger spoke of small acts of kindness he had encountered along the way, people who had helped him when he had no reason to expect it, and how those moments had given him courage to keep going. There was a humility in his tone, a quiet understanding that life was full of unexpected turns and encounters that could change everything. The man listening realized that this stranger, who had come to his doorstep by chance or fate, had seen more of the world than he could ever imagine. There was something compelling about the way he spoke, not as a person seeking sympathy, but as someone who understood the value of human connection and the strength found in perseverance. Night fell, and the storm outside showed no sign of stopping. The man offered the stranger a place to sleep, a small guest room that was simple but comfortable. The stranger accepted gratefully, settling into the bed with a tired sigh. There was a quiet understanding between them that this was more than just a temporary shelter. It was a moment of trust, an unspoken agreement that each had recognized something in the other worth respecting. The man who had opened his door felt a subtle shift in his own heart, a stirring of excitement he hadn't felt in years. It was as though the stranger's presence had awakened a part of him that had been dormant, a part eager for connection, for meaning, for a story that went beyond the ordinary routine of his life. The hours passed, and the rain finally softened into a gentle drizzle. The man found himself reflecting on the evening, thinking about how a single decision to open his door to offer warmth to someone in need could create ripples far beyond what he could see. He realized that life had a way of presenting opportunities disguised as chance encounters, and sometimes all it took was the courage to act on them. The stranger's journey, so different yet strangely familiar in its longing for purpose, seemed to mirror his own inner desires. There was a sense of shared humanity, a recognition that both their paths had crossed for a reason that neither fully understood yet. As the night deepened, the man returned to his chair by the window, looking out at the wet streets reflecting the dim lights of the town. The storm had passed, leaving a calm that felt almost magical. He thought about the stranger sleeping in the next room, about the stories yet to be told, and about the unknown journey that lay ahead for both of them. There was a quiet anticipation, a sense that this meeting was only the beginning of something significant. The man felt a renewed sense of purpose, a spark of excitement at the possibilities that could unfold from this simple act of welcoming a stranger. In the early hours of the morning, the town was still and peaceful. The man sat with a cup of tea, listening to the soft patter of remaining raindrops on the roof. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction, not from accomplishing something grand, but from the quiet knowledge that he had done something meaningful. He had extended kindness without expectation, and in doing so had opened the door to a story that was just beginning. The stranger's presence was no longer just an interruption to his routine. It was a reminder of the unpredictability of life, the beauty of human connection, and the potential for transformation that lay in simple, compassionate acts. As the first light of dawn filtered through the windows, he felt a sense of hope he hadn't experienced in a long time. The stranger, once a mysterious figure, had become a part of his world, even if only temporarily. There was a quiet excitement in the air, a feeling that life was about to change in ways neither of them could yet imagine. And in that small rain-soaked town, two lives had intersected, creating a moment that would mark the beginning of a journey neither man would ever forget. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over the small living room. The stranger had already left the guest room, quietly moving about the kitchen, preparing a simple breakfast. The man who had welcomed him watched in silence, feeling a mix of curiosity and anticipation. There was something about this visitor that drew him in, something more than just the immediate kindness he had offered. The stranger carried a quiet confidence, a calm strength that made his presence reassuring. They sat together for breakfast, eating slowly and speaking softly. The stranger began to share more about his journey. He had traveled across many towns, seen places that were beautiful and some that were harsh. He spoke of people he had met along the way, each encounter leaving a mark on him. Some experiences had been painful, filled with loss and disappointment, while others had been uplifting, full of unexpected generosity and kindness. As he spoke, the man listened intently, fascinated by the stranger's perspective on life. It was clear that he had learned to see the world differently, not just as a series of events, but as a network of connections, opportunities, and choices that shaped who he had become. The stranger explained that he had been searching for something, though he wasn't entirely sure what it was. He described moments when he felt lost, unsure of the direction he should take, and moments when he had glimpses of clarity, ideas that sparked hope and determination. He had been working on a project, something that could make a difference in the lives of many people, but he had been unable to complete it alone. The project required collaboration, trust, and guidance, and he had been hoping to find someone who could understand and support him. As he spoke, his eyes were filled with both determination and vulnerability, showing that beneath his calm exterior, he had faced numerous challenges and setbacks. The man realized that this stranger, who had walked into his home almost by chance, was not only seeking shelter but also seeking connection and partnership. He could sense the weight of the stranger's dreams, the dedication behind every word he spoke, and the potential for something meaningful to emerge from their meeting. There was an unusual energy between them, an unspoken understanding that their paths had crossed for a reason. The stranger's presence stirred a sense of purpose within the man, a feeling that life was presenting him with an opportunity to step beyond his usual routine and be part of something greater. Curiosity grew into interest, and the man began asking questions, wanting to understand more about the project and the stranger's vision. The stranger explained the idea in simple terms, outlining the goals and challenges. It was an ambitious plan, one that involved helping communities, creating opportunities for people who lacked resources, and spreading knowledge and support to those in need. He had the concept, the drive, and some experience, but what he needed most was someone willing to help him organize, plan, and navigate obstacles. The man listened carefully, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. It was a chance to do something meaningful, something that could break the monotony of his life and make a real impact. As they talked, the man noticed the stranger's attention to detail, the careful thought behind every step he planned, and the passion that shone through even in the simplest explanations. It became clear that this was not a fleeting idea or a whim. It was a vision that had been nurtured over time, and he had pursued it despite countless difficulties. The man felt inspired by the courage it took to keep going in the face of uncertainty, and he began to see the stranger not just as a visitor, but as a person with a mission, someone whose determination could ignite his own latent ambitions. The day passed quickly as they continued their conversation, moving from breakfast to a long walk outside. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets fresh and sparkling in the sunlight. They spoke about life, values, and the importance of helping others, and the man shared some of his own experiences, fears, and dreams. There was a growing sense of trust between them, a recognition that each could learn from the other. The stranger's stories were filled with lessons, not just about perseverance, but about empathy, resilience, and the unexpected ways in which kindness could change lives. In the evening, they returned to the house, and the stranger proposed a small experiment. He wanted to test one aspect of his project, to see if their combined efforts could yield tangible results. The man hesitated at first, unsure if he was ready to commit to something so uncertain, but the stranger's calm encouragement reassured him. They began planning, discussing steps, resources, and strategies. Even the simplest decisions required careful thought, and they spent hours mapping out ideas, brainstorming possibilities, and anticipating potential obstacles. It was challenging work, but the man felt a thrill he had not experienced in years. The sense of purpose, the feeling that they were working towards something meaningful, was invigorating. Over the next few days, the two men continued to collaborate, each contributing skills and ideas. The stranger's knowledge and experience complemented the man's practical thinking and attention to detail. Together, they tackled small problems, celebrated minor victories, and learned to navigate disagreements with respect and patience. The man began to see the world through the stranger's eyes, appreciating the value of persistence, the importance of seeing opportunities where others might see only obstacles, and the transformative power of human connection. As their partnership grew, the man noticed changes within himself. He felt more alive, more engaged, and more capable of facing challenges. The stranger's optimism, tempered by realism, inspired him to take risks he would have avoided before. He found joy in small accomplishments, satisfaction in careful planning, and a sense of fulfillment in contributing to something larger than himself. The simple act of welcoming a stranger had opened a door to a journey that was reshaping his life, revealing strengths and passions he had long overlooked. The stranger, too, seemed to thrive in the growing collaboration, having someone to share the workload, to discuss ideas openly, and to offer honest feedback made the process more productive and enjoyable. He expressed gratitude for the man's willingness to engage, not just with the project but with him as a person. There was a bond forming between them, built on mutual respect, shared goals, and the recognition that each had something valuable to offer the other. The initial hesitance and uncertainty had given way to a sense of purpose and direction, and both could feel the momentum building. One evening, after a long day of planning and small successes, they sat on the porch watching the sun set over the town. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and the air was calm and still. They spoke quietly, reflecting on how far they had come in just a few days. The man realized that this encounter, which had begun with a simple act of kindness, had already started to change his life in profound ways. He felt a deep sense of gratitude not just for the stranger's presence but for the opportunity to be part of something meaningful. The stranger, in turn, acknowledged the importance of finding someone willing to believe in him, someone who had chosen to step into his journey without hesitation or judgment. As night fell, the man felt a sense of anticipation and excitement for what lay ahead. The stranger's project, once a distant dream, was now becoming a shared mission, one that required dedication, creativity, and perseverance. They had only just begun, and the path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges they could not yet foresee. Yet there was a quiet confidence in the man's heart, a belief that together they could overcome obstacles and make a difference. The stranger's presence had illuminated possibilities he had never considered. opening a door to experiences and growth that had been waiting for him all along. In those early days of collaboration, both men learned the value of trust, communication, and patience. They discovered the importance of listening, of giving space for ideas to develop, and of recognizing the strengths in each other. The partnership was evolving into more than just a professional endeavor. It was a journey of friendship, discovery, and mutual growth. Each day brought new insights, new challenges, and new opportunities to deepen their understanding of each other and of the work they were pursuing. By the end of the week, the man felt a transformation within himself. The routine and quiet life he had known seemed distant now, replaced by a sense of purpose, engagement, and possibility. The stranger's arrival had sparked a chain of events that was reshaping his perspective, encouraging him to embrace uncertainty, take risks, and explore new horizons. He realized that life had a way of presenting opportunities in unexpected forms, and that sometimes all it took was the courage to open the door, offer help, and engage with the unknown. As they prepared for another day of work on the project, the man felt a renewed sense of determination and excitement. The stranger, once a weary traveler seeking shelter, had become a partner, a source of inspiration and a catalyst for change. Together they were embarking on a journey that promised challenges, growth, and fulfillment. The encounter that had begun with a simple act of kindness was now evolving into a story of purpose, discovery, and the potential to make a lasting impact on the world around them. Days passed, and the collaboration between the man and the stranger deepened. Their mornings were spent planning, brainstorming, and discussing strategies, while afternoons were dedicated to testing ideas, reaching out to others, and gathering resources. With every passing day, the stranger's vision became clearer, and the man found himself more invested in the project than he had ever imagined. There was a sense of urgency in their work, fueled by the knowledge that opportunities could be fleeting, but also a patient determination, knowing that meaningful outcomes required careful effort and persistence. The man discovered a new sense of energy and focus in his life. He woke up each day with anticipation, eager to contribute, to learn, and to see their ideas take shape. Simple tasks that once felt routine now held significance, as each step brought them closer to realizing a vision that had begun as a distant dream. The stranger's guidance and insight inspired him to think creatively, to challenge his own assumptions, and to embrace the unknown with confidence. Together they began to transform abstract ideas into actionable plans, carefully considering every detail, anticipating challenges, and finding innovative solutions. The stranger encouraged the man to step beyond his comfort zone, to engage with people he would not normally approach, and to take responsibility for decisions that mattered. There were moments of hesitation, moments when doubt crept in, but the stranger's calm support and unwavering faith provided reassurance. The man began to see his own potential, recognizing skills and strengths that had long lain dormant. He realized that the act of working toward a shared goal could awaken courage, creativity, and resilience in ways he had never experienced before. As they moved forward, challenges arose. Not everything went according to plan. Some of their efforts met resistance, others were delayed by unexpected obstacles, and there were moments when frustration and fatigue threatened to undermine their progress. Yet each challenge became an opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow. The stranger remained steady, offering guidance without pressure, helping the man understand that setbacks were part of the journey and not a reason to give up. Together they developed problem-solving skills, patience, and the ability to navigate uncertainty, all of which strengthened their partnership and reinforced their shared commitment to the project. Their collaboration was not just about work. They shared stories, laughed over small missteps, and celebrated even minor successes. These moments created a sense of camaraderie and trust that went beyond professional collaboration. The man realized that the stranger's presence was transforming his daily life, making it richer, fuller, and more meaningful. He began to understand that the journey itself, with its challenges and discoveries, held value beyond any final achievement. Each day brought new lessons, new connections, and new insights, shaping not only the project but also his own personal growth. One afternoon they encountered a significant hurdle. A key element of their plan faced unexpected opposition, and they were forced to rethink their approach entirely. The man felt a surge of doubt, questioning whether they were capable of overcoming this obstacle. The stranger, however, remained calm, encouraging him to consider alternative perspectives and solutions. They spent hours analyzing the situation, discussing possibilities and weighing risks. Slowly, they developed a revised plan that not only addressed the immediate problem but also strengthened the overall project. The man realized that the ability to adapt, to remain flexible in the face of uncertainty, was as important as any skill or knowledge they brought to the table. Through these experiences, the man discovered a sense of purpose that had been missing from his life. He felt connected to something larger than himself, motivated not by routine or obligation, but by the meaningful impact of their efforts. The stranger's vision, once a distant concept, became intertwined with his own values and aspirations. He found satisfaction in contributing, in thinking strategically, and in witnessing the gradual progress of their shared work. The act of collaboration awakened a sense of fulfillment, demonstrating that meaningful engagement could transform ordinary life into an extraordinary journey. Evenings often found them reflecting on the day's work, sharing observations and discussing lessons learned. They analyzed what had gone well, what could be improved, and how to approach future challenges. This reflection fostered continuous growth, enhancing both their skills and their understanding of each other. The man appreciated the stranger's thoughtful approach, recognizing that their partnership was built on mutual respect, open communication, and a shared commitment to achieving something worthwhile. He began to understand the power of collaboration, realizing that combining complementary strengths could yield results far beyond what either could achieve alone. Outside their work, the man also began to notice changes in his own perspective. He became more empathetic, more patient, and more willing to take initiative. The stranger's experiences and insights provided a broader context for understanding people, challenges, and opportunities. The man found himself thinking creatively about solutions, considering multiple perspectives, and embracing uncertainty with confidence. This personal growth was as significant as the progress of the project itself, shaping him into a more capable, thoughtful, and resilient individual. As their efforts advanced, small successes began to accumulate. They implemented parts of the plan, received positive feedback, and witnessed the tangible effects of their work. These victories, though modest, reinforced their motivation, strengthened their partnership, and demonstrated the real-world value of their dedication. The man felt pride in their accomplishments, not for personal recognition, but for the impact they were making and the lives they were touching. The stranger, too, expressed gratitude and satisfaction, acknowledging that their collaboration had transformed not only the project but their own lives. One particularly challenging day tested their resolve. A critical resource they depended on was unavailable, threatening to derail their timeline. The man felt anxiety and frustration, unsure how to proceed. The stranger calmly suggested alternative strategies, emphasizing creativity and persistence over worry. They spent hours exploring new options, consulting contacts, and adjusting plans. By the end of the day, they had devised a solution that not only resolved the immediate issue, but also improved the project overall. This experience reinforced the man's understanding that perseverance, adaptability, and trust in each other were essential ingredients for success. As weeks passed, the project began to take a more tangible form. Their vision, once abstract, was slowly becoming reality. The man marveled at how far they had come, recognizing that consistent effort, thoughtful planning, and collaboration could achieve remarkable results. He felt a profound sense of fulfillment, understanding that the journey itself, with its challenges, lessons, and discoveries, was as meaningful as any outcome. The stranger's presence had transformed not only their work, but also the man's perspective on life, opening his eyes to the possibilities that arise when one embraces opportunity, takes initiative, and engages with purpose. During quiet moments, the man reflected on the significance of this unexpected partnership. The stranger, who had arrived at his door seeking shelter, had brought more than a project. He had brought a chance for growth, learning, and transformation. The man realized that life often presents opportunities in subtle, unexpected ways, and that responding with openness, trust, and courage could lead to profound change. The stranger's vision, determination, and integrity had inspired him to expand his own horizons, to confront challenges with resilience, and to embrace the unknown with optimism. By the end of part 3 of their journey, both men had experienced substantial personal growth and professional development. The man had discovered new strengths, renewed energy, and a deep sense of purpose, while the stranger had gained a reliable partner, support, and shared responsibility for bringing his vision to life. Their collaboration demonstrated the transformative power of connection, trust, and shared ambition, illustrating that meaningful progress often arises from the synergy of complementary skills and the willingness to engage fully with both challenges and opportunities. Together, they continued to move forward, motivated by a shared vision and the knowledge that their combined efforts could achieve far more than either could accomplish alone. The man had learned that opening one's heart and extending kindness could lead to unexpected adventures, personal growth, and the discovery of a path that aligned with both values and purpose. The stranger's arrival had been the catalyst for change, but it was their shared determination, collaboration, and mutual respect that would shape the journey ahead, setting the stage for the triumphs, lessons, and fulfillment that lay in the remaining parts of their story. The days turned into weeks, and the project continued to grow, taking on a life of its own. The man and the stranger spent long hours together, often losing track of time as they worked on plans, solved problems, and envisioned the impact they wanted to make. Each day brought new challenges, but it also brought new lessons and small victories that strengthened their determination. The man felt more alive than he had in years. There was a sense of purpose guiding him, a feeling that he was finally doing something that mattered, something that went beyond himself and his usual routine. The stranger's unwavering dedication inspired the man to push beyond his limits. They encountered obstacles that tested patience, creativity, and resilience. Sometimes a plan that seemed solid would fall apart, requiring them to adapt quickly. Other times, people they reached out to for support were hesitant or skeptical, forcing them to rethink their approach. These moments were frustrating, but they also became opportunities for growth. The man learned to see challenges not as setbacks, but as chances to innovate, to find better solutions, and to strengthen both his own skills and their partnership. One day, they faced a particularly difficult situation. A critical element of their plan, one that they had spent weeks preparing, was suddenly unavailable. The man felt a wave of anxiety, wondering if all their hard work would be wasted. The stranger remained calm, encouraging him to focus on what they could control and to think creatively. Together, they brainstormed alternatives, explored new options, and eventually found a solution that worked even better than their original plan. The man was amazed at how the stranger's optimism and steady presence could transform a moment of despair into an opportunity for growth. He realized that success was not just about talent or resources, but also about mindset, perseverance, and the ability to adapt under pressure. As they continued working, their collaboration deepened into a strong bond. They shared not only the work but also their lives, telling stories, sharing personal experiences, and offering support when one felt overwhelmed or uncertain. The man began to notice changes within himself. He became more confident, more patient, and more willing to take risks. He found joy in the process, in the problem-solving, in the small achievements, and in the knowledge that he was contributing to something meaningful. He realized that his life had been waiting for this kind of purpose, and that it had been awakened by the stranger who had walked through his door weeks ago. The stranger, too, thrived in this growing partnership. Having someone to share the workload, provide feedback, and offer encouragement made the journey less lonely and more productive. He had faced many challenges alone in the past, but now he experienced the power of collaboration. The man's practical thinking, reliability, and insight complemented his own vision, allowing them to achieve results neither could have reached on their own. Their combined efforts became greater than the sum of their individual contributions, and the project began to take shape in ways they had only imagined at the beginning. They encountered many small victories along the way, moments that fueled their motivation and reinforced their sense of purpose. Each success, no matter how minor, reminded them that their hard work and persistence were making a difference. They celebrated these achievements quietly, with satisfaction rather than extravagance, appreciating the progress they had made and the lessons they had learned. The man felt a deep sense of fulfillment, realizing that the act of working toward a shared goal could bring a joy and satisfaction that no routine or comfort alone could provide. Challenges, however, continued to test their resilience. There were days when frustration and fatigue threatened to derail their progress. On some occasions, unexpected problems arose that required long hours and careful problem-solving. The man often found himself exhausted, yet he also felt a renewed sense of determination each time they overcame an obstacle. The stranger's calm presence and unwavering dedication were a source of strength, reminding him that persistence and focus were key to achieving meaningful outcomes. They learned to approach difficulties as opportunities to grow, to learn, and to strengthen their teamwork. The man also discovered the importance of trust and communication. As they faced increasingly complex problems, he realized that being open, honest, and willing to listen were just as important as intelligence or skill. The stranger valued his input and encouraged him to share ideas, even when they seemed small or uncertain. This mutual respect and trust allowed them to work effectively together, making decisions that were well thought out and carefully considered. The man began to see the power of collaboration, understanding that shared effort could overcome obstacles that would have been insurmountable alone. Outside of work, the man's perspective on life began to change. He became more empathetic, more patient, and more aware of the needs and experiences of others. The stranger's stories, insights, and guidance offered a broader understanding of the world and of human connection. He learned to value persistence, resilience, and kindness, recognizing that these qualities were essential not only in their project, but in life itself. Each day brought a new lesson, a new understanding, and a deeper appreciation for the journey they were on together. One evening, after a particularly long and challenging day, they sat together in the living room reflecting on their progress. The man realized how much he had grown in such a short time. He felt more confident, capable, and alive. The stranger's influence had been transformative, not just in guiding the project, but in awakening the man's sense of purpose and potential. They spoke quietly about the future, about the possibilities that lay ahead, and about the impact they hoped to achieve. There was a sense of anticipation and excitement, a feeling that their journey was only beginning and that greater challenges and rewards were yet to come. As they continued, the man noticed how their collaboration had strengthened their ability to navigate uncertainty. They had faced countless obstacles, made difficult decisions, and adapted to unforeseen circumstances. Each experience had taught them resilience, patience, and creativity. The man understood that these lessons were not just about the project, but about life itself. He felt prepared to face challenges with a new mindset, confident in his ability to contribute meaningfully and to adapt when circumstances changed. The stranger, for his part, expressed gratitude for the man's commitment and partnership. He acknowledged that having someone to share the journey, someone who believed in the vision and in him, made all the difference. The man realized that their bond had grown beyond professional collaboration. It was now a deep friendship built on trust, shared purpose, and mutual respect. This connection enriched both their lives, providing support, inspiration, and a sense of belonging that neither had anticipated when they first met. In the quiet moments, the man reflected on the journey so far. He thought about the day the stranger had arrived, soaked and weary, and how a simple act of kindness had led to this profound transformation. He realized that life often presents opportunities in unexpected ways, and that embracing them with courage and openness can lead to remarkable outcomes. The stranger's arrival had been a turning point, opening a door to experiences, growth, and fulfillment that the man had never imagined. As they looked ahead, both men felt a growing sense of determination and optimism. The project was advancing steadily, and the impact of their efforts was becoming clearer. They knew that challenges would continue, but they also knew that together they could overcome them. The man felt a renewed sense of purpose and energy, understanding that the journey itself, with all its trials and triumphs, was shaping him into a more capable, resilient, and fulfilled individual. The stranger had come into his life unexpectedly, but their partnership had become a source of strength, inspiration, and opportunity. Part 4 of their journey was defined by resilience, growth, and the deepening bond between them. The man had discovered a sense of purpose and fulfillment that had been missing from his life. The stranger had found a partner and ally who shared his vision and supported his efforts. Together, they continued to navigate challenges, celebrate victories, and build a foundation for the future. The encounter that had begun with a simple act of kindness had evolved into a transformative journey, shaping their lives, their perspectives, and their sense of destiny, the man realized that true fulfillment often comes from embracing unexpected opportunities, working with others toward a meaningful goal, and trusting in the power of collaboration, perseverance, and human connection. The final stretch of their journey arrived quietly, yet it carried with it a sense of purpose and anticipation. Months had passed since the stranger had first knocked on the man's door, seeking shelter from a storm. What had started as a simple act of kindness had grown into a life-changing experience, shaping both men in ways they could not have imagined. The project they had nurtured, struggled with, and worked tirelessly to develop was now reaching its full potential, and with it came a sense of fulfillment and excitement that neither had expected. The man woke one morning with a strange mixture of nervousness and exhilaration. The culmination of their efforts was approaching, and he felt the weight of all the work, planning, and obstacles behind him. Yet rather than feeling overwhelmed, he felt energized. Each challenge they had faced had prepared him for this moment, building resilience, patience, and confidence. The stranger, calm as ever, was already reviewing final details, checking resources, and ensuring that every aspect was in order. The man observed quietly, marveling at the stranger's attention to detail and the steady calm that contrasted with his own heightened emotions. Over breakfast, they spoke about how far they had come. The stranger recounted some of the earliest steps, reminding the man of how uncertain everything had seemed at the beginning. The man thought about those first days, the rain, the guest room, the nervous yet hopeful conversation, and realized how much his life had changed since then. He had grown, learned, and discovered a sense of purpose he had never known. They laughed together, recalling minor mistakes, awkward moments, and unexpected setbacks that, in retrospect, had all contributed to their success. There was warmth in the room, a deep bond forged not only through work but through shared experience, trust, and mutual respect. As the day unfolded, they moved to implement the final stages of the project. Their efforts were focused, precise, and coordinated. They relied on the skills and instincts they had honed over months of collaboration. Challenges still arose, but the confidence they had gained from overcoming past obstacles allowed them to approach each problem with calm determination. The man realized that what they had built was more than just a project. It was a testament to perseverance, collaboration, and the power of believing in something meaningful. Every step forward was a reminder that dedication and trust could turn vision into reality. In the afternoon, they witnessed the first tangible results of their work. The man felt a surge of pride and satisfaction, a feeling so deep it left him momentarily speechless. The stranger shared the moment quietly, exchanging glances that conveyed gratitude, recognition, and a shared sense of accomplishment. They had not only succeeded in completing a plan, but had also created something that could positively impact others' lives. The man understood that the impact went beyond practical outcomes. It had created hope, opportunity, and inspiration for those who would benefit from their work. This realization filled him with a quiet joy and a sense of responsibility, knowing that what they had achieved carried meaning far beyond themselves. The man also reflected on how much he had grown personally. He had faced doubts, fear, and uncertainty, yet he had persevered. The experience had shown him strengths he had not recognized and qualities he had taken for granted. He had learned patience, creativity, empathy, and the value of trust. He had discovered that opening his heart to a stranger had not only changed the stranger's life, but had transformed his own. He now understood that destiny often arrives unexpectedly, in forms that require courage, openness, and willingness to embrace the unknown. Evening came, and with it, a sense of quiet celebration. They sat together on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. A sky was painted in vibrant hues of orange, pink, and gold, casting a peaceful glow over the town. They spoke softly about the journey, the lessons learned, and the memories they had created. The man marveled at how a chance encounter had led to such profound change, how a simple act of kindness had set in motion a chain of events that reshaped his life. The stranger, in turn, expressed gratitude for the man's willingness to step into his journey, to believe, and to work alongside him through every challenge. It was a moment of recognition, of mutual respect, and of deep satisfaction. As darkness settled, the man thought about the future. He knew that challenges would continue, that life would bring uncertainties and that growth required ongoing effort. Yet he also felt a sense of readiness, equipped with the skills, mindset, and experience gained through this journey. The stranger's presence had shown him that collaboration, trust, and shared purpose could overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable. The man understood that the journey was ongoing, but he now carried within him a sense of confidence, clarity, and resilience that would guide him through whatever lay ahead. Night brought quiet reflection. The man returned to his living room, looking at the empty chair where he had first offered warmth to the stranger. The memory of that evening, the rain, and the hesitant yet hopeful look in the stranger's eyes filled him with gratitude. He realized that destiny is often a combination of chance and choice, a delicate balance of circumstances and decisions. By opening his door, by offering kindness without expectation, he had stepped onto a path that led to purpose, fulfillment, and transformation. The stranger's arrival had been a turning point, but it was his willingness to engage, to believe, and to act that had allowed the journey to unfold. In the following days, the man and the stranger continued to solidify the outcomes of their project. They reached more people, shared resources, and ensured that the impact would be lasting. Their work became a model of what could be achieved when vision, dedication, and collaboration come together. The man took pride in the tangible results, but he also cherished the intangible lessons, the growth, the friendship, the sense of purpose that had permeated every step of the journey. It was a reminder that the value of an experience is often found as much in the process as in the outcome. One afternoon, as they reviewed final details, the man realized that their partnership had taught him an essential truth. Life's greatest opportunities often arrive in unexpected forms, and the courage to act can change everything. The stranger's presence had been a catalyst, but it was their combined efforts, trust, and dedication that had brought the vision to life. The man felt a deep sense of gratitude for the stranger, for the journey they had shared, and for the personal transformation that had resulted. He knew that this experience would stay with him forever, shaping the way he approached life, work, and relationships. As the project reached its official completion, they celebrated quietly, appreciating the culmination of months of effort. They reflected on the obstacles overcome, the lessons learned, and the growth achieved. The man recognized that the experience had given him not just purpose, but a renewed understanding of what it meant to live fully, to engage meaningfully, and to embrace connection. The stranger had not only found a partner, but had also given the man an opportunity to discover his own destiny. It was a profound realization, one that filled the room with a quiet but powerful sense of fulfillment. The days that followed were filled with reflection and preparation for the next steps. The man began to consider how he could continue to build on what they had accomplished, how he could carry forward the sense of purpose and impact into other areas of his life. The stranger, too, planned to extend the project's reach, inspired by the success and strengthened by the partnership they had formed. Both men understood that this journey was not an end, but a milestone, a demonstration of what could be achieved through collaboration, perseverance, and trust. One evening, as they sat together, the man expressed his gratitude. He spoke about how much he had changed, how much he had learned, and how deeply he appreciated the stranger's presence in his life. The stranger, in turn, acknowledged the man's contributions, patience, and insight, noting that their partnership had made all the difference. They shared a quiet moment of recognition, understanding that their journey had been transformative for both of them. The man realized that destiny often arrives quietly, through small choices and acts of kindness, yet it carries the power to shape lives profoundly. In the final reflection of this journey, the man understood a truth that would stay with him forever. The act of welcoming someone, of opening one's heart and home, can create ripples that extend far beyond what one can see. By choosing to engage with the stranger, he had not only provided shelter and support, but had also discovered his own capacity for growth, purpose, and connection. The stranger had brought vision and determination, but it was the man's willingness to act, to collaborate, and to embrace opportunity that had allowed the journey to reach its full potential. As the story reached its quiet conclusion, both men looked toward the future with confidence and hope. Their shared experiences, lessons, and achievements had forged a bond that would endure, and the impact of their work would continue to touch lives beyond their immediate reach. The man felt a profound sense of destiny fulfilled, knowing that a single moment of kindness had led to transformation, purpose, and connection. The stranger, too, had found not only a partner but a friend, someone whose support and trust had made the impossible possible. Together they had discovered that destiny often begins at the doorstep, in moments of compassion, courage, and openness to the unknown.